Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another day here in Bronie's world. And oh my gosh, you think last week was a bit of a doozy? Well, this week I had two guests sitting here for a minute, but anyway, that's for another day. I have, though, a really gorgeous special guest speaker today who may become a regular after the conversation we just had with Pharmacist Ben. And this young lady is also a pharmacist. She's retired, a retired pharmacist. But most importantly, it's her birthday today. Well, down under is her birthday. She's 78 years young. How gorgeous does she look? If she had not told me how old she was, I would never have guessed, right? So that speaks for herself, her good living and taking care of herself. So I am very honoured to welcome our newest pharmacist in our line of business, the beautiful pharmacist Lisa Hamil. And with no further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, birthday girl.
Well, thank you, Bronwyn. And we have a small but mighty group here, and I hope people brought all their questions that they can challenge me with, and we can relieve all of their anxieties or wonderings about how amazing our body is. And that's the bottom line. I do not sell a product, but I definitely encourage people to make lifestyle choices that help them live the life that they want, have plenty of energy, and restore their bodies with what we already have hiding inside of us that often doesn't get used to its biggest advantage. Now, behind me and behind you, we are aware of our amazing planet Earth, which to this point has approaching 8 billion people in population. What do you think about that?
There's a lot of people.
It seems like a lot of people.
But in reality, it's not.
Well, that's true. So the question is, if you look behind me, there aren't that many people crowded behind me in this particular scene, and there's lots of wide open spaces that haven't really been maximized. But let's say, for instance, there's conversations about overpopulation. And then there's other people that think we don't have enough people, and they're trying to ramp up the population numbers because otherwise we will be destitute in our senior years if there aren't enough children to bring up and maintain our economy and world lifestyle if people are dying at a faster rate than they are living. And I would like to bring everyone's attention to the idea that what would happen if our Earth, instead of having 8 billion people, what would happen if we lived and had 80 billion people living on the Earth? How would that work? And the way that it would work, or the way that it could work, is that we honor each other's variety of gifts and talents, the diversity of how different we all are, and we all are brought here to do something different. And yet live under the unity of humanity. We all have humanity in common, and yet we have diverse talents, and not everyone can offer the same gift to everyone else. We all have our own little unique role to play. And one of the best living examples of this is our very own body. Do you realize that our body, with all of its organs, the skin, muscle, bone, bloodstream, blood vessels, it has 39 billion cells. Can you imagine that? 39 billion cells, each of them with their own identity. Like, for instance, a lung cell cannot do what the heart does. The liver can't do what the skin does. Every particular type of cell has its own specific worthy job to do to maintain the unity of our one human body. And in the process, we also have another 40 billion cells in our colon, the microbiome. So that's a total of almost 80 billion different individual cells that have their own mitochondria. They all have their own assignment, and they all communicate with each other beautifully to maintain the integrity of our entire body. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if we didn't have all those cells?
We need all those cells. As a matter of fact, if we only had 8 billion cells, we would be totally lost. And yet the Earth has 8 billion people that hasn't quite learned to live in harmony with the diversity that each person has to offer. We could all make use of each other's gifts and talents by amplifying the contribution. And what's interesting is that every single cell in our body is perfectly happy doing exactly what it was supposed to do. You never see a liver cell that wants to be a skin cell. You never see a kidney cell that wants to be a stomach. You never see an eye cell that wants to be an ingrown toenail. You know, all these different parts of our body that serve unique purposes, and yet they all communicate with each other without going through World War III.
Or
Isn't
four.
that amazing? Or 4 or 5 or 6. Now, the other thing that the body does is really miraculous is that the minute a cell steps out of line and becomes oncogenic or misfires because for some reason their DNA is not in alignment, and they become a cancer cell. And of course, a cancer cell will try to rebelliously continue to regrow itself and take over the entire body. But our immune system will eradicate them right away. They don't take them to court and say, you're misfiring, you're misbehaving. It wants to take care of the entire unity of the body, even though they have the diversity of their own job. And if they step out of alignment, they get taken care of. That's how we stay healthy. Now, one of the things that's really additionally amazing, aside from our 80 billion cells that we have as a human being, we also have 60,000 miles of blood vessels and capillaries that carry oxygen to all the different cells that require oxygen, and especially the offshoot of metabolism when CO2 is produced. The blood takes it back to the lungs and we exhale it. And guess what? The plants are sitting there waiting for the CO2 to use that harvest for their own benefit. Can you imagine 60,000 miles of blood vessels and capillaries that can go around the world more than 2 times? The world is only 25,000 miles in circumference.
That's amazing, isn't it? That all
it is, but that's in one body. Yeah. And if you look at all the 8 billion people, that's a lot of mileage of blood vessels. And we really need to appreciate what our body has to offer. And yet, the magnificence of that inner system is far more expansive than what we don't think we know about outer space. There's inner space and there's outer space. And they're both complete adventures. What we want to do as health educators and healers and people that are interested in health altogether is to truly understand how we can maximize the health that's available to us, because our body virtually is our own pharmacy, our own source of wellness, if we know how to treat it correctly. As a matter of fact, the pharmaceutical industry is coming under a lot of gunfire lately. I just heard of a conference that's going to be held in the near future about all the things that the FDA is doing in cahoots with the pharmaceutical industry and all the research that's extremely worthwhile, but it's not the answer to true health. The way we stay healthy on our own, maximizing what our own resource has available to us, is the way we save money in healthcare. And I was a pharmaceutical sales representative for 25 years. So I've seen things work backstage. And unfortunately, a lot of these new horizons are things in biologicals that are very mysterious, not as clear cut as oxygen and carbon dioxide, not as simple as here, let's have some vitamin C, but they're getting into a lot of the complicated aspects of our body's operation, such as transplants. And of course, knee replacement, hip replacements. And if you can imagine, the body is actually capable in many situations of restoring cartilage. So you don't have to have a hip replacement or a knee replacement. It really depends on how well things are managed. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Joe Dispenza. He's easily found on YouTube, but he is a huge advocate in the influence of our mind and how we can actually heal ourselves. And it all happens through this thing called creating your joy. When we get worried about things, when we are disrupted in expectations and pass along judgments and even unkind words to other people that annoy us, the fact that we're even using those words is also annoying our own physiology. So it's very important to stay on the upper side of humanity, of management. As a matter of fact, Hamlet, Shakespeare wrote, this idea that nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Yeah. And the last thing that our Creator wants us to do is judge, because we don't have all the information to judge completely. But especially if that judgment causes difficulty in anxiety and complaining and dissatisfaction, as opposed to the gratitude. Yes, it is dry and hot out here, and I'm trying to hike myself out of the Grand Canyon. But if I can do it with joy, it's a lot easier to survive under that circumstance. Just think of the Donner Party. I can't believe it. They actually ate each other to try and make it over the hill. I mean, that is a real difficult thing. There's been huge humanity experiences that have been extremely difficult to manage, and yet people did survive. But it really boils down to our everyday thinking, and especially in this day and age when we have so many resources available to us to maintain and advocate for creating our joy. Now, I wanted to ask everybody what their most pressing health issue might be this day and age for them. Not that you have to get personal. Maybe you know of somebody else that's struggling with something. Would you like to volunteer something that we can talk about as a biological inconvenience that makes it difficult to create joy?
I've had someone ask me recently, actually more than once, whether they should get a how do you say it?
Colonoscopy.
Yes. Anyway, your colonoscopy, because and how often should they get it done, and is there danger in getting it done? I mean, I have heard people who have, shouldn't, if they hadn't got it done, they wouldn't have had, they've been interrupted whilst damage has been done from having it. But anyway, but people sort of, have asked me, should they have it done? Because some doctors just insist you have to have these things done every so often without any particular reason. Some people, there are reasons. There might be a history of cancer in the family, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me get a round of all your questions first, okay? Who else would like to offer something that's a challenge or you wonder about?
Okay. Anyone else got a question they want to ask a health question they want to ask? Sue, do you have one? Grant here.
Melanomas.
Melanomas?
Yeah. Skin cancer.
Sure. Anything else?
Helping people who are on blood thinners. I get that a lot.
Yes.
And so, helping them with their supplements, working around blood thinners is a common occurrence.
That's a big deal. And it can be concerning when you think that falling off a ladder and incising a part of your leg, or nothing really outrageous, not even as terrible as a car accident, could lead to bleeding that is very difficult to manage on the long time frame. But yes, blood thinners are a big deal. And any other questions that you have? Or concerns or issues that people have brought to your attention? Okay, well, we have a couple of interesting, if something comes up, let me know. But the thing about colonoscopies, it's like a diagnostic tool. And in some cases, during the observation of the gut, they can pick up something that needs to be surgically eliminated. So that's a wonderful opportunity to take advantage of that. But how often does that really happen? I've heard so many different varieties of responses to doing that. And one of the gastroenterologists that I did work with quite a bit in California here said that, okay, first of all, there's family history. And my father, as an example, did have colon cancer, but he was very unresponsible. And when he noticed the bleeding, he didn't really address it soon enough. So that took care of everything. But he was going through a lot of stress, and he unfortunately had a rather negative inclination towards a lot of things that were happening in life. I mean, he had a lot of psychological problems that were going on. But colon cancer, and what's usually looked for in terms of polyps, and actually any cancer, is often related to inflammation and our body's own immune system. Believe it or not, all of us create cancer cells every single day. And our own immune system is able to eradicate it if we have good circulation, good diet, nutrition, and don't abuse our body with lack of sleep, too much tension, poor food choices, fatty diet, perhaps drinking alcohol and smoking. So the type of things that we know are hard on our body do interfere with our immune system. And a lot of what's going on in the cancer arena, including melanoma, Grant, that you're asking about, is related to our own immune system. And fortunately or unfortunately, our attitude and our ability to stay joyful and grateful and healthy influences our immune system. That also happens actually, well, those are just big considerations. And the first two that we're questioning today is founded on the condition of the immune system. So ideally, we would be practicing good health habits early on instead of waiting for a disaster to take hold and then trying to backpedal and fix it after our body is already trajected into the wrong place and cause problems. Along with having a primary cancer is getting a secondary or metastatic condition. And this is very closely related to the whole concept of blood thinners. Blood thinners are designed to keep the blood flowing. And unfortunately, it's often associated with a fear or concern over having a stroke or a heart attack, what they call a cardiovascular event. If the blood is not fluid and well segregated or diluted, it facilitates the development of metastatic cancer, especially, for instance, in women that have ovarian cancer or breast cancer. The whole surgical process of trying to eliminate the primary cancer and probably even melanoma and other serious stages of cancer. Once the blood becomes really thick, it promotes the success of not only having the immune system coming in and eradicating the cancer, but it also allows for metastasis. Because once the blood becomes thicker, and especially around surgical time, cells are dislodged, and it's a lot easier for those cancer cells to hook onto a thick blood element or groups of cells that may be in the process of forming atherosclerosis or even a blood clot. The cancer cells can hide into these little pockets of thicker blood composed of cellular debris and so forth, and then lodge in distant locations, establish their community, and cause a huge problem. Now, once they're in those areas, it's a lot harder for chemotherapy to work because they're isolated from the circulation. And so blood thinners have a role in terms of keeping the blood thin, and it's hard to know from person to person the exact reason why that needs to be implemented. But for all of us to even stay healthy, one of the best things we can do to boost our own circulation is, of course, movement. Stay active. Because if we're not active, it's sort of like living in a home with 4 or 5 people and only flushing the toilet once a day. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the best thing. And our body is so accommodating that it allows us to get away with a lot of unhealthy habits. And the consequences don't show up for several weeks to months in the future. So the flushing and the benefits of circulation are so vital. Movement is a huge factor. Most people sit around so much longer than we move. In the good old days, we didn't have the conveniences of, people don't even vacuum their house anymore. They'll hire somebody. They don't wash their windows anymore. They don't sweep the yard anymore. They don't go out and pull weeds, They either have their own reasons why not to stay active, but washing your windows, all those things that we used to do are a lot healthier for us to actually see the benefit of our movement. Not to mention,
see outside.
I'm sorry?
As well as see outside with clean windows.
And the fresh air outside and the whole bit. But movement is a big deal, and our sedentary lifestyle is not helping us. It's nice. There's a serious consequence to living in so much comfort. And it's hard to ignore it or to seek out that concept of no pain, no gain type of thing. But it's really important for us to stay active because it's that flushing, along with that circulation and requirement of keeping the body not only nourished, but hydrated and detoxified by lots of fluid and moving through the body with that fluid, bringing in the oxygen for the cell, allowing the immune system to get in there and eradicate any cancer cells that may have shown up. Did I interrupt a question? Was somebody going to ask something?
No, Sue might want to know more about. So, I want to know, what would you recommend if someone wants to get off blood thinners, but still keep their blood thin besides moving? Is there anything that you suggest in our many line of things that we have naturally to, swap it out so that we can, instead of putting all these chemicals in our bodies to thin our blood, to maybe and nutrients and minerals to do the same job, but keeping our bodies free of all these pharmaceutical chemicals? Yeah, that's really, more to what we would like to know. Is because it's really good.
it's really unfortunate. Of course, I am not a physician. I could never really give advice for any specific case. But in general, as a health educator and as people are coming to you and asking questions, it's so much more important to make sure you're well hydrated, lots of fluids, because you'd be surprised how many people don't drink enough fluids and their blood becomes thicker just because there's not enough water in their system. And so you need to really, I don't want to say dilute it out, but it's like the sluggishness, again, as if you don't have water running through your house pipes. Things just really gunk up. And blood thinners will definitely thin the blood, but then the person will, be compromised because of the blood being just too thick. So that's part of it. And then, of course, to boost circulation, you need to move, and even taking a minute out every hour, to boost movement, or just, see yourself sweat. Nobody wants to sweat, but when you do that, you eliminate so many toxins through your skin, and it's really beneficial to just have that flow going, not to mention the exchange of oxygen and how it benefits your heart and your brain. So hydration and movement are big factors. And then, of course, there's dietary considerations in terms of, garlic and certain foods that help reduce blood clotting and vasodilate. Things like beets will open up the blood vessels. And when you have free-flowing, non-atherosclerotic blood vessels, it's a lot easier for you not to have the complications of blood clots that can lead to a stroke or even a heart attack. So those are the general things. Now, you deal with all these supplements, and I don't want to get into those because they all have their own description as to what they're supposed to do.
That's true.
But aside from that, the other really helpful thing is to breathe. And
that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I know it sounds like natural and what a no-brainer, but the one thing I really wanted to show you today, and we talked about it a week or two ago, is this concept of AHAB. Do you remember talking about that, Bronwyn?
Yes.
Which is abdominal heart-assisted breathing. Abdominal breathing that assists the heart with the circulation. And the best way to do this is first thing in the morning. We can all do this when you first wake up. Now, in a certain age group, it's very common, if you're going to have a heart attack or an event that results in a stroke or a heart attack, it tends to happen most frequently between 6 a.m. and 12 noon. Now, in the older age group, right, 6 in the morning, there's like 4 6-hour sections around the whole 24-hour day. And what often happens is perhaps 1 or 2 times a person gets up and goes to the bathroom. And when that happens, they dehydrate just by going to the bathroom. But do they think of drinking more water? They eliminated water, but then that puts them in a semi-dehydrated state. Now, let's say you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you have to go to the restroom. So you get up and you do that. If you drink some water, chances are it'll last you until at least 6 a.m. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's highly dependent, per person. Or just have a full glass of water right next to your bed and drink it before you get out of bed, But this abdominal breathing thing can be done totally independent to water intake. But just realize that during the night, if you're urinating during the night, most people don't drink the water because they don't want to get up and go to the bathroom again. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's that. I know.
So that's a kind of a crazy thing. But then that sets you up for having a stroke. I mean, depending on all the rest of your health profile and stuff like that. But if you're going to have a stroke or a heart attack, it usually happens between 6 in the morning and 12 noon because you're just emerging out of all that period of no water, no hydration, because a lot of times people don't want to even drink anything, from 8 or 9 o'clock at night. They go to bed, wake up, in the middle of the night 1 or 2 times, and then they don't want to drink anything all night. So, I mean, a lot of times they haven't had anything to drink for 12 hours. And so their blood is naturally thicker, which sets them up for a greater opportunity for blood clots and stroke issues. The other thing that happens that early in the morning is there's a tendency to have actually lower blood pressure because you actually have less blood in your bloodstream because of the dehydration. And it's very common for people to get up early in the morning to maybe go to the bathroom or get and start their day. And they get out of bed and all of a sudden they faint and they hit my voice teacher did that one time. She got up and fainted right away, hit her head on a bookcase on her way down and had to go into the hospital. Okay. So, I mean, that's just one isolated situation. However, that's when people experience the compromise of low blood pressure first thing in the morning. So this abdominal assisted breathing can help alleviate that. Because if you're laying in bed, I don't know if you can see this or not, but let's say you're laying in bed and here's your abdomen. I don't know if you can see this. Probably not. Okay. So
yeah, the background takes it away.
Okay. Yeah. So you want your abdomen to come up like 2 or 3 inches as much as you can as you're laying in bed. Take a deep breath, hold it for 8 to 10 seconds, just hold it, and then exhale so that you have this back and forth thing going in the abdominal area. That actually helps boost circulation and assists the heart in the circulation process. But it also has a number of other benefits. Believe it or not, a lot of people have what they call dust mites. Has anybody heard of dust mites?
Oh, yes.
Okay, they're in the mattress where we're sleeping. So they'll wake up with a stuffy nose because they're allergic to the off gas or the off dust of these mites that are in the mattress, unless they're lucky enough to get a new mattress every couple of weeks or something like that, or else use plastic, whatever it takes. But there's items in the bedroom, since you're sleeping there all night and you're breathing in all this stuff, so you end up with a congested nose. By doing this type of breathing, you actually decongest your nose because that breathing will boost your heart rate enough that not only will you help clear up the congestion, because what is a decongestant? We have Sudafed and we have other agents that'll help, phenylephrine, that'll help reduce the congestion in your nose. The reason it works is because it boosts your heart rate. Oh, so really? instead of taking a drug to boost your heart rate, breathe like that, I'm telling you, because it will. You could take your pulse when you first wake up. You can take 10 seconds and count how many times. Usually, like a really healthy average rate would be 1 beat per second, 60 beats in a minute. Now, depending on if you have any cardiac issues, it may be different. But whatever you wake up with, that is your heart rate. And then once you do this breathing technique that I'm mentioning to you, it will boost your heart rate maybe 10 points per minute. It's not going to give you a ballistic heart rate. But if you go through this process of breathing deeply with your abdominal wall, filling everything up, holding it for 10 seconds, exhaling it, and you go through around 8 to 10 cycles of that and work your way up to as many as you can tolerate, you will experience clearing up of your sinuses. You'll boost your heart rate. You will feel far more awake because that's exactly what coffee does. It boosts your heart rate as well. That's why you feel more alert, because it boosts the amount of oxygen being taken to your brain. So you'll feel like you just had a cup of coffee before you get out of bed, if you know what I'm saying. So that's the decongestion, increase the heart rate, prevent falling over, fainting when you get up out of bed in the morning. And the other thing that's really amazing is it will improve your bowel movements. That type of breathing will actually boost peristalsis.
I never knew that.
Yes, it's really amazing the way it does that. And you'll feel compelled to go up and have a bowel movement before you even have breakfast, But I mean, these are just the benefit of moving these muscles. The other thing too is if you ever notice how people tend to gain weight, when they gain weight, where do they gain weight?
Wow.
They get taller.
Usually around the hips.
Belly.
Something.
The hips. Okay, here's the secret. Your body deposits fat where you are not moving. So if you're using your legs a lot and you're jogging and you're using your arms to wash windows and mow the lawn or whatever, you're not going to develop fat there. But nobody moves their stomach. So if you want that 26-inch waist, you have to do this abdominal breathing, because moving that abdominal area, the blood and the body will not deposit fat in an area that's moving, because whatever is moving, the muscles that are there and the storage of fat that accumulates in the abdominal area, they have to have a place to deposit the fat. But if you're using the muscles in that area, your muscles will use the energy that is being carried to a fat deposit to move as a muscle. In other words, the muscle needs to use that for nutrition and energy so it can work as a muscle. So wherever you're moving your muscle, you are not going to accumulate fat.
Wow, that is
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, actually.
Okay, so let's all aim for that 26-inch waist.
Right.
It's just a simple thing, you know what I mean? And you can measure the benefit, and it's not a big deal, you know, but people will be jealous. You'll get rid of all that fat. Okay, so we're going to improve our bowel constitution. We're going to get rid of the fat around our waist and all that abdominal fat that they talk about. We're going to decongest our sinuses. We're going to boost our heart rate so that we feel totally alert and ready to get up and start the day. And we're going to help the heart beat, which also improves the lymphatic drainage. As you know, we have the bloodstream that's encapsulated those 60,000 miles of blood vessels and capillaries that the heart pumps blood around. But the waste products go into the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system does not have a heart. That's another reason why movement is so important, because as we move, we help clean out the lymphatic system that has all the garbage in it that is naturally thrown off during the metabolic process of all our cells. So it's like an inner cleansing system that's already been designed for that purpose, but it doesn't carry nutrients to the cells. Like the bloodstream carries nutrients and oxygen, takes away carbon dioxide, but the lymphatics is like a waste garbage disposal type of thing. So you can help that drainage process by moving your abdominal cavity as well as any other movement that you're doing with your body to just allow that to happen. Now, this abdominal breathing that we're talking about also boosts circulation to the brain. As you know, if our brain doesn't get enough circulation or we have a stroke, then we end up being compromised mentally. But even if we don't have a stroke, we still need to also get rid of the toxins that are accumulating all night, because when the brain is so active while we're sleeping, if you can imagine, the brain is still conducting everything that our body needs to do and know while we're sleeping, and we're just gorked out. We have no idea how much work the brain is engaging in. But in the process, it also expels toxins. And then there are brain-designed lymphatic system cells called gliocytes that are part of the lymphatic system. The glial cells are the ones that clean up the garbage in our brain. So this type of circulation also clears out the lymphatics of the brain, which helps us think better during the day. That's why sleep is so important. And if you don't sleep well on a regular basis during the night, your brain accumulates all these toxic lymphatic agents that don't belong there and just get in the way of our thinking and our mental sharpness in general. Not to mention what it does in terms of preparing you for a stroke. So all those things are really important. And they can all be done by this very simple breathing technique that you can engage in the morning and try and do at least 8 to 10 every single morning before you get out of bed. And you will live happily ever after.
Sounds awesome. We've got, guys and girls, we've got some work to do this week. And before Lisa comes back next time, because I do hope that she will come back as a guest speaker maybe once a month, same as Ben has.
Well, I'll have to see how that works. I'll let you know or whatever. But the thing is, I really wanted you to have this little bit of a launch.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, all this intelligence and information doesn't do any good if we keep it in the bottle.
No, that's right.
We've got to implement it. And if we can get into these habits, and the earlier we get into these habits as we grow older, the easier it is to be responsible in those years when we really don't feel like doing anything. Because it's amazing how once you become really, really, really healthy, and then you give up all your good health habits, you begin to go, oh man, this isn't working. I've got to go back to this, because
you see that in athletes all the time, don't you?
Yeah, you develop this feeling of well-being that cleans out your bowels and cleans up all the junk you're carrying around in your bloodstream and your lymphatics. You think more clearly, and life just happens on a much better level for everything that you're trying to enjoy and wanting to enjoy,
Exactly. And, that's what life's all about, particularly as you age, get older. I don't know if
and the sooner you do it,
you want to enjoy it, don't you?
Oh, yeah, you do. And the thing is, unfortunately, there's so many children now that I'm really remiss about, because they're being trained to sit around and look at phones. And they don't go around and earn money mowing the neighbor's lawn anymore, or washing cars, because you just take your car to the car wash. But we need to stay more active, and the sooner we can do that as a younger person, the more it becomes part of our adult life as well, and we just have more energy altogether. And then we don't worry about things like colonoscopies and melanomas and blood thinners. You know what I'm saying? Because these are all chronic issues that, there's a diagnostic factor on the colonoscopy, for instance, and even, melanoma. But again, if your immune system isn't operational, it's going to make it very difficult, for your body to deal with it. And unfortunately, I used to sell a drug that was used for melanoma, and it can really take you out quickly, if it gets to the wrong stage. But again, the reason melanoma is developed is because the immune system has been compromised. Ordinarily we go out in the sun, and there's a lot of people that live in the sun belt, and using a sunscreen or a hat or whatever, you can do certain things to help protect you from the compromise of the sun. But again, if your immune system isn't operational, your body will just produce melanoma cells too, because melanoma cells love taking over when your immune system is absent.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of people who wear hats all the time, but smother themselves in sunscreen, do the slip, slop, slap, as we call it here in Australia. And they have melanomas, skin cancers, just left, right, and center, all over the place, constantly. And I'm thinking, but according to the authorities, you've done everything that they said. You've put on the hat, you slapped on the sunscreen, you slipped on a shirt.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a good immune system measurement, to really understand what's happening with the immune system. But there have been so many situations. Unfortunately, melanoma can work very quickly, but there are people that have gone through all kinds of chemo with colon cancer or liver cancer, and their doctors say, I'm sorry, but we've gone to the end of the line. There's nothing left I can give you. Go home and get your life in order, because there's nothing more I can do. And they survive. because they finally took the time out to either rest well, think better thoughts, and don't underestimate that gratitude practice, of being grateful. That little smile on your face right there, Bronwyn, is the sign of joy, of contentment, of completeness, But when people are grumbling and complaining about things, your body hears what you're saying and thinking, and it doesn't help your system, especially your immune system, at all.
No. Speaking of
That's
smiles, Lisa.
I'm sorry, what?
Speaking of smiles, I had to renew my passport yesterday and had photo taken, and because they don't want you to smile, I had to take my glasses off and everything. And look, I don't know how many dozens of photos they had to take before they could get one. And every time they said, just drop your mouth a little bit, and they said, it just went further up. So it's not natural.
Yeah, I went through that a couple of weeks ago. I had to take my own picture and I sent it in, and it's very serious, but they finally approved it, and I was just amazed at how many times I had to do it over again. So, but it's over now. I mean, it's good for 10 years.
So. I mean, the photo looks horrible, but we have it taken at the post office, and they process everything right there and send everything away. But
it's an ordeal.
Look, it made their day and it made my day, but it was just trying to get me to turn my smile upside down, and because I turn my frown upside down and you have a smile, and we should be
well, here's the deal. You can look as serious as you want to on the outside, but make sure you're smiling on the inside. That's what your body wants.
Laughing, I couldn't help it. But they told me that you have to, because years and years ago, I don't ever recall I was able to have a smile. Even if I could have just a little smile, the photo would have looked better. But they said that the face recognitions that they have around the world now don't recognize smiles. They can't pick it up. And I said, well, I'm safe then. I won't have them following me because...
You wouldn't believe my picture. It's really crazy, but whatever. As long as they were happy and they let me go after charging me $1 bazillion to do it, it was ridiculous. But anyway,
right.
What are you going to do? I'm at their mercy.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Any other last minute questions before we wrap it up for today?
Look, I actually do. You talked about the lymphatic system, and it actually reminded me of a friend of ours just had his all removed. Completely removed. I don't understand why doctors insist on removing the lymphatic nodes, the lymph nodes and things, which is so important. Like you said, they're our cleaning system, and you remove them, you've got nothing. And they just said, now you have to give up work, because if you hurt yourself, you won't even know. And he's still reasonably young.
Yeah, it's really sad. And I'm sure you know of a lot of women that may have had their lymph nodes removed when they breast, and so they end up with a swollen arm and and again, it just goes back to the early habits of staying lymphatic and toxic free, You
just want to help them. And how can we help them when they've already had it removed?
Well, see, that's the problem. Unfortunately, a lot of medicine is just going to make it all worse. But, I mean, again, I'm not a doctor, but if that were to have happened to me, the only real thing is to just keep moving as much as you can without overdoing it. I mean, it's just a matter of the awareness of what our body is going through, trying to manage all of these toxic products that it's producing as part of its own metabolic process,
So you really have to look after your immune system once you've had those removed. It's even...
You do, but that's why you want to take care of your immune system before it gets to that point, because the immune system is really a magical system. But since it works undercover, I mean, like I said, every single day we create cancer cells. There isn't a day that goes by that we don't make numerous cancer cells. And our body
that's what we
jumps
do.
on it.
Here, is trying to help people stay healthy or get healthy before they have these irreversible things happen, like having all their lymph nodes removed. You sort of, it breaks my heart.
It's really sad. A big deal, though, too, is your fresh fruits and vegetables and lots of vitamin C. You know, those really naturally boost the immune system. But drinking the water and make sure that your blood doesn't get too thick is also a big deal, too. Getting good sleep, because our body's immune system works like a rampage while we're sleeping. But if we're not sleeping well, we're not getting the right stage of activity that keeps our body where it needs to be.
Well, we have in our set of, I'm just trying to find them here. I've always got them here. We actually have, because I have a lot of people that say to me, oh, but I don't like drinking water. I don't like the taste of water. And, you know, you just don't want to drink it out of the tap because it's horrid. But we do have some really awesome hydration sticks with different flavors. The company that brought those
and
in.
You use that in water, right? You
add them to water, but the beauty of them being like this,
sure,
you can carry them, you can take them, throw them in your purse and take them, and they all have a different purpose. You know, so like my favorite is the Coreo. It's an antioxidant, and the reason it's my favorite, apart from that it has some mangosteen fruit in it, is I suffered unknowingly for over 40 years with fibromyalgia. I mean, I knew something was wrong. I just kept having doctors tell me it was all in my head and I just needed a psychiatrist. And then I finally something happened and I had to go to the physio, and he touched me in a certain place. He said, oh, I'm not going to do any more and I had an instant migraine. And until you see a pain specialist, and the pain specialist, he was the one who told me, and I burst into tears. And he said to me, he said, oh, I didn't mean to make you cry. And I said, it's tears of joy that there's, you know, that I'm not crazy, that I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't know what. And I'd been searching. And the reason he said, well, in the scheme of medicine, it's considered a relative, because only about 100 years old of recognition. He said in medicine, that's still young, still very fresh, and most GPs will not even recognize it. And by the time anyone picks up on it, yes, usually he finds his patients have gone a bit crazy because of being disbelieved for years. Anyway, and his daughter suffered from the same thing. And she was, like myself, told that it was all in her head, it's crazy, she must be on drugs and all this sort of thing. And like myself, didn't do any of those things. So, and this helped turn it around. That was the start of building my immune system, getting the inflammation down. And along came Doc Wally. And because your company, we were brought into longevity, and that was the icing on the cake. It just made the difference. Understanding the natural things I could do, and understanding that this world of processed food is what's causing a lot of the issues, health issues today.
Yes, well, when our body has pain, that means it wants our attention, because we're not paying attention to something. There's something missing that we have to take. You know, our body is such a miracle if we know how to treat it.
Oh, yes. Well, you know, Doc Wallach says it can heal itself, but we've got to give it what it needs to do that job.
Yeah, it can heal itself. It really can. I mean, I'm just, you know.
I'm living proof, you know.
Yeah, and in awe with people that are having their cartilage replaced in joints, so they don't have to have a knee replacement and hip, and, you know, they're in a lot of pain, but by the movement, it helps boost circulation. And that circulation factor is a really big deal, because if you've got issues going on, it's sort of like if you don't drive your car.
Yeah.
All the pipes get, the rubber pipes crack, you know, they don't go.
Battery goes flat from sitting around doing nothing.
Everything just, it's like disuse atrophy. Disuse atrophy. And we just have to use our body. We need to respect it, but we've got to keep the flow going. That's really important.
Well, guys, we've been on here for the hour, and that was really phenomenal, Lisa.
Okay, so I want to know from you, what are you going to do tomorrow when you wake up?
I'm going to do those breathing exercises.
Are you sure you know how to do it? Do you feel really comfortable in it?
Well, I'll practice, and if I feel I'm still doing it wrong, I'll ask you.
Lisa, I've been doing the Wim Hof method for nearly 3 years now, and I do that most days. That's very similar.
Okay, well, it's the whole idea of using this part of our body that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, this abdominal thing. I've spent several years, singing and doing things for church and whatever, and you have to breathe, and you have to breathe through the abdomen. You can't go like this. You have to breathe and allow for the breath to carry your notes for a long time.
I do an exercise 2 or 3 times a week where I breathe in 30 times deeply, and then I do as many push-ups as I can straight after without breathing. If I don't breathe in again, and then I finally breathe in, and I do 100 push-ups.
So how's your sleep?
I sleep fairly well, except I have dry throat from my throat cancer years ago, so that wakes me up in the middle of the night. So I have to get up and have a bit of, and I drink during the night. I drink my tangerine during the night, and that's wonderful. Yeah.
So all those people who have bowel issue, constipation, we know how to help them to fix it.
Yeah, you can talk to them about it. Yeah, you can talk to them about it, but it does require a discipline, and the rewards are available because our body is ready to do it. It was made to do it that way. So.
What about you, Sue? What did you get out of today?
The sleeping. My sleep is upside down. I go to bed at like 4:30 in the morning and get up at like 11:30, and I mean, it's not that I don't know what to do. My body is wired, and I have tried like the get up early every morning, hoping it would shift. It doesn't, but I am telling you, I'm committed to get back to that, like go to bed early, because as Lisa said, that's when your body does the clearing at the nighttime, right? It's not just sleeping, it's when you sleep. It's the nighttime that happens.
Yeah, you do have to have a regular sleep cycle. Now, some people, they work nights, and it's very difficult for them to have good sleep during the day. And I did that for a while, but I got myself back on a regular schedule after working nights for a while. But do you have an Apple Watch?
I use the Rise app. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a sleep tracker, and it tells me when to wind down. I mean, I sleep very well. Once I go to sleep, I'm good. Out.
Okay, now do you get a measurement of how many minutes you spend in REM sleep and deep sleep?
No.
You should be able to adjust it. You could ask the watch maker or wherever you bought the watch from. I got mine from Xfinity. They set me up. And they'll show you how to look at your figures that come out and set it up so that you see your deep sleep. Usually the ideal deep sleep would be you go to sleep at 10 and you have all of your deep sleep before 2 in the morning, because after 2 in the morning, that's when REM kicks in, okay? Oh, okay. Now, for you with your cycle, one of the best things you can do, which is not easy, but it's going to take a discipline for you, and that is right now you say you don't really sleep until 4 in the morning.
4:30 is like normal bedtime. And when I go to bed, like I said, I sleep soundly. I'm out right away. Oh, okay. I get a good night's sleep, 7 hours to 8 hours.
Yeah. Well, the best thing you can do is try and move everything back 30 minutes or 15 minutes. And don't, everybody has their own system, but ideally you would not, you go to bed at 4 and you sleep and then get up at like 5 or 6 or 6 or 7 try and do as much as you can during the day, and don't expect too much out of yourself. But you will hopefully be so tired and sleep deprived that you'll conk out at 9 o'clock or something like that, you know. I mean, it may take a while for you to get to that, but ideally it would be at night that you sleep as opposed to the day.
Yeah.
And there is a period of adjustment for you to work around that. And if you can talk to someone about getting the measurement of your deep sleep versus
I will do
REM
that.
sleep, you can create a whole wallpaper worth of how well you slept on a certain night and what you ate before you went to bed and what you did before you went to bed. You know, because if you eat too many sugar or heavy meals before bedtime, it'll totally change your sleep profile.
Yeah.
Because your body
Yeah, I
is
try
going to be
not to.
digesting the food instead of cleaning up your brain and restoring what needs to be restored.
Yep.
It is,
So
yes.
that way you can tell for sure
Lots
what
of
you're doing.
notes.
Okay. Well, anyway, sleep is really an important part of your body's health.
It is. Yeah, my husband does
I
not,
believe-
so that he sleeps all over the shop.
He knows.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully he'll stay healthy longer because, I mean, everybody, you know, I look at somebody like Elon Musk. I don't know when he sleeps, but he's, you know, he's got 24-hour YouTubes going and going to meetings and traveling all over the place and things like that. But his body is what his body is. I don't know how long it's going to last. That's my concern because he's a young man. He's only 50-something years old. And he's got a long ways to go if he thinks he's going to go to Mars. So, and he's going to have challenges in Mars, and he better be in the best of shape to manage those challenges, really. But anyway, we all have our dramas. But anyway, take care of those bodies, okay?
Oh, thank you, Lisa. So as I ask you all nicely here in Bronie's World to stay safe, stay informed, be empowered, but do not live in fear, my friends. And when we're going to challenge ourselves this week to do the breathing exercise, this abdominal one, before we get out of bed.
Before you get out of bed.
And get our 26-inch waists back.
Get that 26-inch waist.
I
You
would
can
look
measure
ridiculous with a 26-inch waist.
Well, you can make it 27 inches if you want.
And then, guys, we will be powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and most definitely very brave. God bless you all, and catch you again tomorrow here in Bronie's World. And thank you all very much, and thank you ever so much. Dr.
And is it too much trouble for you to send me a recording?
No, it will not be too much trouble. Just let me.
Okay. We'll be in touch. We'll stay in touch. Okay.
We will certainly.